All right. It's not that often when you get to be there at the moment when two people meet and then eventually get to see them get married, move on, have their first child, and then get to sit down on your podcast and talk to them about it. So I'm so excited to have on the podcast dear friends, Dr. Jen Fitz and Dr. Dom Fraboni, otherwise known as the hosts of the Optimal Body podcast. Thank you guys for coming on the show and your brand new parents. Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's pretty special. Just that intro right there. You were there. You were there
I
to
was
make it
at the
happen.
table. Yes, I was at the table. Very few people can say they were at the table, but it's so
Yeah.
sweet to see where you guys have come. I've known Dom since he was a PT student, so many millions of years ago, and just couldn't be happier for you guys. And your son is 4 months now. Good. You're vertical. We joked about maybe having this be nap time for all of
Yeah.
us.
I know.
So tell us a little bit kind of your background, just so if people haven't heard of you before, and then kind of, a little bit about what your podcast is, and then we'll dive into kind of your postpartum experience.
Yeah. So I guess I've had social media now since, gosh, since 2014, I think I've been
You're
doing it.
OG. Yeah.
So it's been a while. But it started when I was in physical therapy school. Then I graduated, turned it into Doc Jen Fit and started educating. And it's grown into what it is now, just a larger educational platform. And then we've come together now and been able to create what's called the Jen.Health platform in order to help continue educating people to hopefully find solutions to keep moving and get out of pain within their bodies, which has been really incredible and really special.
Yeah. And I, on the other hand, met Jen when I was just fresh out of school and had all these ambitions of private practice or starting my own business, doing something a little bit more non-traditional. Met Jen, who was doing something very cool and non-traditional, and we connected on a lot of different levels. And actually, at that point, I hated social media. I still am not somebody who sits and scrolls a lot
Yeah.
because I think most of what you find on social media is a cesspool of crap information and
Yeah.
manipulation trying to just get you to buy things. But when I met Jen, I realized that there is a minority of people that are really using the platforms to get out great information, to be able to educate in the masses, to be able to reach a lot more people in more of a public health realm. And that's something I really grabbed onto because that was a core mission of mine, to be able to educate the masses
Yeah.
and get people good information. And so, yeah, we started working together more so full time towards the beginning of quarantine because I was out in LA trying to build a private clientele that all went away
Yep.
when COVID and quarantine started. And now I do a lot more business and financial back end of
Yeah.
our business, which I still every day feel like I have no clue what I'm doing, but I continue to learn and figure it out along the way.
When you have a good business partner, that's all that matters, right?
We're both just trying to figure it out. I used to say, like, going into PT school, I was like, oh, I'll never own my own business. Like, business,
Right.
that's over my head. And it's just kind of been where I've stumbled into. So having someone who's a little bit more organized on the back end is super helpful.
Who likes
Yes.
numbers?
Yeah, who
I like-
likes numbers?
I like
I hate
numbers.
numbers.
That's good to have. Definitely good to have.
Yeah.
No, I mean, looking back, I mean, either of you, did you you probably never envisioned, hey, we're going to share our pregnancy experience with my future wife, with my future husband in front of all of these people. And then
Yeah.
also, did you ever think that you'd be educating people about pregnancy and postpartum exercises, which, it's been such a cool thing to watch you guys kind of introduce your experience to, I think probably an audience that's not necessarily why they came in the first place.
Yeah, it's been such a journey. And what I've learned from social media through the years is the more vulnerable and real that you are, just the more that you really connect to help create this community of people who are not maybe like-minded, but also just here to be real as well,
Yeah.
rather than judgmental or anything
Yep.
like that. And so I've always been wanting to be open about my experience and And I'm grateful to have someone who was also in a stage, just willing to be open, willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has shared a lot of vulnerable things through the years, even on our podcast. So, this stepping into parenthood, it just feels kind of like a natural thing that, yes, we've always been open and we've always been sharing. So this is something that we are going to continue to share with our community because it helps drive that connection.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things about the birth story that we were excited about, along with sharing our story itself, was that there were so many points along the birth story that we felt like there were teachable moments in a way that about advocating for yourself within those, very important, very vulnerable states when your wife is going through the labor process and may not be the person who can advocate for themselves as much. So setting yourself up to be able to understand what the plan is, understand in certain scenarios what contingencies or what the next branch of the plan is.
Yep.
And we had all that set up and hit some points along the birth story where there were challenges with providers or challenges with just the process in general, but we had talked this all through and we kind of knew what our plan was going in. So along with sharing that story, there was this whole thread of being able to advocate for yourself and know what questions you want to ask and know what the plans are in case certain scenarios arise.
Yeah. And that was I think such a clear, clean, poignant thread that came through the story, where you can't control all the things. And I love that you got to plan E, and that's reality. That's how it goes. And so I think it's so important to hear. Sometimes people think, oh, well, you're in the medical profession, you get things to go exactly the way you want. Not exactly.
No.
But again, the point of advocacy that I think you kind of spoke about, Dom, where you're like, okay, I thought I could handle this, but it was so nice to have other people in there because it's your first time. You don't know what the hell's going on. You're not in sound mind and body at all. And you're just trying to drink from the fire hose and to have people in there that are on your team, I thought was such just a lovely message to put forward that I hope that more people understand that to advocate for yourself, to get what it is you're looking for in the experience. The outcome may not be exactly as you plan, but the experience itself, you'll feel really good about. So I thought that was a lovely thread and nice that you guys were able to speak about it so close to the time where everything's kind of fresh, because a couple of years that story will change, but the advocacy will still come through.
Yeah, exactly.
You forget a lot of it. Early. Yeah, you forget a lot of it, so you have more kids, quite honestly.
I hear that's how it happens.
It does. So, I mean, you guys, your literal livelihoods are based upon, activity and movement and all that kind of thing. What were your kind of expectations as far as what those that first 6 weeks was going to look like? What were your sort of thoughts? You've had friends that have kids and that sort of thing. And then what was sort of the reality, and where are you sitting now 4 months afterwards?
Well, first of all, I thought I was going to have him a little earlier. That was the hope in my mind. Because I took off work, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm really taking off work now because he didn't come till 42 weeks on the dot.
Which is another thing to mentally prepare for, because I remember Jen telling me, she's just like, pregnancy has been okay, but as soon as you hit 37 weeks and people start telling you, oh, he can come any day now, and you're getting messages from your family and your friends like, is there a baby here? Great day to have a baby. Like, that wears on you over 5 weeks when you end up going 2 weeks late.
Both of mine were 41 and a half weeks. And I stopped working with Gianni at 38 weeks, giving myself a little bit of a buffer. And then, so it was almost a month, and it was January in the DC area. You're not going to go out for a walk. It's icy, that sort of thing. So there was a lot of Mad Men that I watched. So hopefully that won't impact him later in life. But no, it's like enraging. You're like, come on, let's go.
Yeah. So that was mentally like something I had to prepare for. And I would tell him, like, I want to work. Like, it's stressing me out more not to work now.
Our midwife had said, okay, why don't you just stop working so we can lower stress levels? And after 2 to 3 weeks of that, she's like, this is more stressful, not working.
It's
So I'm
hard
like,
to just sit
okay,
and do nothing. Yes.
we're going to go over emails. We're going to go over some program
I
stuff
know.
because that will help keep you more de-stressed than
Right. You're like,
avoiding work.
know your audience.
Exactly.
Totally.
I know. And then afterwards, you know, I mean, obviously, I didn't expect to have a cesarean.
Mhm.
So I I didn't, as much as I read about it, I studied it, I knew like that could happen. I wasn't mentally as prepared
Yep.
for the afterwards of it.
Yep.
And so luckily, I mean, I had my cousin who had just recently gone through it and other friends. So I was able to like
Good.
call upon people of their experience and,
Yeah.
questions to ask or things to look out for. And I just knew that it would be a process coming home that I would need a lot of assistance.
Yep.
And maybe that could have been the same vaginally, but I knew for a C-section, for cesarean, like I remember laying down the first night when we got home because we only opted to stay in hospital for 2 nights instead of 4. We just
Mhm.
wanted to get home.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I remember I laid down and I had a huge body pillow next to me that I needed to move so that I could see the baby. And I remember crying because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to ask you to move my body pillow.
Yeah.
I remember that. It was same thing with me. I didn't expect our first C, and just the idea of sitting up to feed or to roll over or God forbid to burp him was like next level stuff that was
Yeah,
not part of what I had thought about at all.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
project forward, you're like, please don't let this be the next however many months. And it's not. But
yeah.
at the time
Yeah.
at 2 in the morning, oh man.
I know. He had to do a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which,
And I mean, and I think I was ready for that in a sense. I mean, luckily, business wise, content wise, we have gotten good at batching stuff
Yeah.
out. So we knew for that first month, we were both
You
pretty
were good.
much
Yeah.
disconnected and away from creating content. And yeah, I just was on call, and that became, especially for the first week, my primary gig was waiting for any sort of call or text or can you come grab my water? Can you use my body pillow? uh, Anything. And it just being able to like drop your identity for a week or two and just
Yeah.
say, hey, this is where we're at and
Yeah.
what I need to do to best support in this stage. So
Yeah. Yeah,
um
it's nice to be able to do that. My husband totally picked up the whole, we had one of those, like, sling carriers, and I
mhm,
I couldn't manage it because of the scar right off the bat,
mhm.
and
mhm.
he was sling guy. Like, he tucked the sling on, and of course, it was February, so he put the big coat on, and, a walk would be like, "Hey, let's go for a block," but he
Yeah.
would be sling guy, and we would get out, and we would start to get going, and we were really lucky, like you, that we could be a little bit flexible because he hadn't planned on taking that much time off either. And I was like, dude, if you leave, I am done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not going to
Exactly.
happen.
It's such a blessing that we both work from home,
Yeah.
and I can't even imagine, and we can't speak to people who
Yeah.
need to be in a hurry to get back to work or
Or don't have the support.
don't have the
I mean,
support of family or a partner or
Yep.
whatever. I mean, the fact that we were both able to be home and be there for Dante in those first months and continue to be, both being at home, has been a real blessing. And also on the flip side of that, a curse that we both work from home so that we're both
Right. Yeah.
here.
No, that it gets to be a challenge. We watched a lot of NASCAR in the beginning because it was one of those things where we're like,
Oh.
ooh, look at the cars, zoom, crash. Like, it didn't require like a lot of like brain cells.
Right.
So,
That's
it was our
hilarious.
entertainment in the beginning.
that's hilarious.
So, again, hopefully that doesn't affect my son later on in life, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Mad Men and NASCAR. All right.
yeah, and now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe I'll put some things together. So, like, the first couple times you're like, "All right, I'm gonna try and exercise. I'm gonna try and work out." Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I also have to say that I'm very grateful just in general, the knowledge I have being a physical therapist, knowledge I have within my body, and the fact that I was able to move so much during like all the
Yes.
way up to the 42 weeks,
Yep.
working out, lifting weights. So the fact that I had a healthy pregnancy really contributed to how I felt afterwards. So I am super grateful for that. As much as I needed help and needed everything to heal, I knew I could go to my breath exercises right away. I could open up in
Yep.
my upper back. I could, so there were things that I could do to help facilitate the movement journey.
Yeah.
And then it was, I think it was around 4 weeks that I was trying to get him down for a nap. And I decided for some reason to do squats with him in order to
Mm.
like that drop feeling to kind of rock him to sleep. However, 4 rounds of that, I did 4 rounds or 3 or 4 rounds of 10.
Was it
And
squats and lunges?
yeah, I couldn't walk for a week.
Oh my
I
goodness.
was so sore. I was
She's
like, what did I just do?
she's
Yeah.
coming down the stairs after putting him down for the nap like she just got done playing a football game or
Right?
something. She's like, "Oh my gosh, what have I done?"
You don't realize how little. I think that's one of the biggest kind of, it kinda screws with your head afterwards. You think, "Oh, I've been so active,
Yeah.
I've been moving," not realizing that, like, things have slowly deteriorated over 9 months, and it's a completely different body that you're navigating. Yeah, and
Mhm.
and Dante really liked the drops, right? I saw you guys post a bunch of stories of like, "Oh my god, we're still doing this?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did. He liked to rock.
That's when you're like, "Okay, I need to get more active quickly because this is the only way I can get him down."
I know.
That was my activity, was holding him out front and, like, rocking him. I'm like, "Man, I'm getting some good core work. My arms, my
Yes.
shoulders are just, like, burning if he's struggling to go down for a nap for, like, 10 minutes."
Yeah, no, definitely. But I love Jen. You had posted in the first couple weeks afterwards, just some breast stuff and quadruped things, and to me, it's been such a cool thing now to watch moms like you have a place to start
Mhm.
really early because not to date myself, but like back in the day, and my oldest is 12, like those were things that we held off on till
Mhm.
6 weeks regardless of birth mode, and that was standard of practice at that time. And, you know, now looking back and thinking of all the things that we were expected to try and do in those first 6 weeks, and we hadn't even connected with breath or found our deep abdominals, like, with him, I very much felt hollow for a really long time, and I think now that that was probably related to, gosh, you didn't find your abs for a couple of months.
Mhm.
um, like, it's really cool, and I'm a little jealous, I'll be honest, that you guys are getting to this stuff so much sooner, and it wasn't that long ago where we're like, "No, no, no, don't do a thing." And it kinda breaks my heart for people that have a little bit older kids, and they're like, "Well, I didn't know." I'm like, "Well, we didn't either." So,
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember having any lectures in PT school? I actually don't, on kinda working with pregnant women early on, because Jen, you're closer to kinda my year, but
Yeah. Honestly, no. I
no.
don't remember early postpartum. I feel like I mean, yeah. No, it would only be from what I learned outside of PT school
Right,
and courses
exactly.
that I continue to take, but that was not in PT school for me.
And even when I try thinking, I mean, the only thing that I think of when I think of pregnancy, as far as what we learned in PT school, and this could also be because I sometimes didn't pay attention both in class. Um, I was
You
sitting there
dumb.
doing emails for other things. But like pregnancy was the ultimate contraindication or
For
precaution
everything. Yes.
Forever.
for everything. And so,
Yep.
but and I'm not a public health specialist, I don't specifically work with people in postpartum, but when I just use my science brain, it doesn't make sense to me if someone is up walking around anyway, if you're going
Yep.
up and down stairs, to be able to do exercises in a very focused way to connect back into your body that is less strenuous than walking up and down stairs or
Right.
walking, picking up your baby, things that you're doing anyway functionally
Yep.
throughout your day. We should be able to give people exercises to connect back with their core, to
Yep.
get into different positions, especially if it's less rigorous than walking.
Exactly, exactly, and that's one of the things that still I get to be in my bonnet about is when you have like I'll have somebody that I'm working with in pregnancy. I typically set up a postpartum visit 2 to 4 weeks after the due date, depending on how close they are, if we know they're going to be on their due date or not, just to get started and give them some place to go. And then we'll do the 6 week later on. And I've had clients contact me and say, oh, my OB doesn't want me to come this soon because I shouldn't be doing anything. And I'm like, you're doing stuff anyway. Can we
Mhm.
front load some of this stuff? Can we clear out any red or yellow flags? Can we get you connected to some of this basic stuff? Like, it's so ridiculous, like you said. So on one hand, I'm really just, smiling ear to ear that you've got these resources and you can start early, and it's just so much further than we were, but we're still banging our head against the wall with providers that are like, no, don't do anything. You're going to mess something up. And even with a C-section, I was still walking up and down the stairs. I was still carrying a kid. I was still doing those things.
Mhm.
Like, why not teach somebody how to navigate that, just like any other post-surgical situation?
Yeah.
But
And
I'm,
I mean,
I'm
I had to look at like, just getting out of bed and how I was managing my
yeah.
pressure because especially once everything is lax and opened up from pregnancy and then all of a sudden you lose that baby, if I could see the diastasis or the coning start to
Mhm.
poke through and I could see, based on how I was moving, what I was doing, if I wasn't managing pressures, if I wasn't thinking about it. And
Yep.
again, I contribute that to being able to know that stuff though.
Yes.
And someone who, even if the information is out there, doesn't know what that looks like, doesn't know what to look
Right.
for,
Yeah.
and now is being told they can't go see a provider, that
Right.
it's so
Well, and you were
alarming.
able to come at it with a sense of curiosity because you're like, "Oh, isn't that interesting? Look at that."
Mhm.
Whereas other moms might be like, "Oh my god, and I can't do this." And that's where I feel like there's still a subgroup of moms that get stuck there.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's kind of where I think we were back when I had my oldest. Was you could do stuff off the mat, and that was kind of where it ended, and you were still doing that months and months and months down the line.
Mhm.
And then, oh, by the way, now you wanna go work out, but there was no bridge to that
Yeah.
gap at all. And I love that that's improved, but again, to your point, like, you can have access to this information, but when your primary, OB is like, "Oh, no," like, there's an authority figure saying, "No, this is bad," and you're like, "Ugh, what do I do?
Yeah.
Do I argue?" Like
I know. I mean, hopefully now we have the ability to just go directly to a PT,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
and people would know that, but they
Novel
don't,
concept.
Yeah.
So
But again, like you guys sharing kind of those initial first weeks, and there was the mom part of my brain where I'm like, you guys shut the camera off, take your time to yourself, but also the appreciation of just that little bit, because there is a group there are moms out there that do not, for variety of resource reasons, have the ability to go see a provider or have the ability to do whatever. Now they have at least some good information to be like, hey, this is a place to start. I am not
Mhm.
alone. I am not screwing anything up. Like, it's good vetted information. And that's where I think our profession has a little bit more to learn about. um, we need to make sure that we're providing information to the masses, and then also we can be individual when the need shows itself. But to be able to um, provide information to people who may not have all the resources, I think is so incredibly important to share what we know. And you guys do such a great job of that. And to do that in the first couple weeks postpartum, I bow down to you because I would not have done that.
I swear that's when the adrenaline was like, I was like, oh, no sleep, but I could do this. I pulled all nighters and I
Not the
used
same
to
thing.
not the same thing, but I'm telling you, in those first 4 weeks,
Mhm.
I had more energy than I do now. Like, I don't know how. I was excited. I was like,
Well,
I'm not working
sure.
out too much. I'm resting. I'm getting help.
And there was a little bit of that whole work from home workaholics thing creeping in
Yeah.
where it's just like, okay, he actually was taking decent naps because he's a
Uh-huh.
newborn and he sleeps a lot. So it's just like
Right. So I'll
Jen's
do
like, oh,
content.
I'll put a little post together and right.
I
It's hard to
I
switch
understand, I understand.
that
My
off.
second, I think I wrote a whole conference presentation after my daughter was born because all she did was sleep during the day, and I was
Yeah.
like, "All right, well, there was days that the nanny had Gianni, and I was
Yeah.
like, All right, well, you're sleeping, so I might as well get stuff done. So I understand. But that was
Yeah.
second kid, so I bow down to you that it was your first. All right. So knowing everything that you know so far, what do you think is missing the most for moms to kind of get information about kind of working out in pregnancy and those early postpartum weeks and months, and where they could use the most support? Like, where are the gaps from the seats that you're in right now?
I mean, I still wish that it was a requirement to go see a pelvic floor therapist during pregnancy, second
Yeah.
or a third try, or maybe once at least for both. And then afterwards, I wish that it was a requirement to see a pelvic floor therapist. That's where I feel like the best education and connection to the body could help. I saw a pelvic floor therapist myself, not afterwards, but before,
Hmm.
twice, in order to work on that connection, understand where I might be tight or weak or loss of control or uncoordinated. I can't see what I don't know.
Yeah.
And so being able to have someone to guide me in that, and then and yes, I had the tools and the resources to still know how to work out, but that's where a pelvic floor therapist could help hopefully guide you and
Yep.
what's safe and what you could do and how you can manage your pressures for your individual body, because it's also not going to be the same for
Right.
everyone.
Right.
So getting to see someone, maybe even virtually,
Yeah.
should I wish could be accessible to more people,
Yep.
and a requirement.
Yeah. Dom, how about you?
Yeah. I mean, I just speaking from watching Jen do this, being somebody who is so educated and in the know, I mean, I can parrot everything that she just said, and that we need to prepare people for the possibilities. And we
Yeah.
need to, I mean, we'll have somebody like you mentioned go through some sort of orthopedic surgery where it's like a patellar reconstruction or something where they're like non-weight bearing in a cast straight leg for 4 weeks, but they're already going to PT after a
Right.
week to just prepare them for the, okay, this is how you get in and out of bed. This is how you
Yep.
walk up and down stairs if you need to. This is how you can sit to stand a little bit easier. And it seems like such trivial things, but we educate those people on that.
Yep.
Why is that missing? When just because it comes to pregnancy, pelvic floor, pelvic health, which historically has been one of the most stigmatized topics in health, like we need to start introducing this
Yeah.
education a lot earlier. I would even go further and say people should be seeing a pelvic floor, pelvic health therapist through the stages of puberty, through, pre-pregnancy,
Yeah.
just again to prep the body for the future,
Yep.
for people who are going to have babies or not.
Yeah.
Like we need to be educating on this topic more,
Yeah.
um, just so people aren't so in the dark trying to search Instagram where there's
Yeah.
eight to nine poor posts, and for every
Right.
one high quality content post that's
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. No, and I'm sure it's like a weird switch that gets flipped once you have a kid, where all of a sudden you just look at the world in a different way, and you look at your kid and you're like, I want you to know more than I did. And having a daughter, having a son, like I've had to learn about penises and all that kind of stuff, and I still don't understand. Like trying boy hormones. Probably both my kids are going to go through puberty simultaneously, one early, one late. So pray for me. Um, and, but just like the things that I didn't know, and even like in PT school, you think you kind of know, but now later on, I'm like, nah, I didn't know what the hell was going on. And just arming them with that information,
Mhm.
um, so that the first time that my daughter has a conversation about her pelvic region isn't after a delivery. It's like she's totally versed on that. Like she knows all about her body and her parts, and she knows what they look like. And the first
Mhm.
time that she looks isn't after she's birthed a human, like that kind of
Right.
stuff. But it
Right.
does, it totally kind of spins things on their head, and it makes you look at like, all right, I want to do better going forward, but I've also got to ensure that our kids kind of have a better situation and better knowledge than we did. It's one of those
Yeah.
things that I don't think you plan on, you kind of understand, but once you're in that role, you're like, "Yep." I'm gonna figure out how this happens.
Yeah.
Um, so for you guys, like again, like you were very diligent with workouts prior to this. What have been the challenges to workouts through the last couple of months, and then kind of looking forward, knowing that things will change? What are the anticipated challenges that you think you might run into?
Let's see. For workouts, I just knew that I was going to lower my weight right off the bat and not go super heavy with things and
Yeah.
drop my ego with any of that and know that that's okay. And I'm working into a whole new body. And so that was my, kind of anticipation going into workouts and everything. What's funny, and it's like, and I've come reworking the core has been a huge part of my process,
Yep.
and understanding and having to drop ego with that as well, from
Yes.
where I used to be with core to where I am now. I remember we filmed something and I did a leg lift, and in my mind it was
Yes.
like, I've done leg lifts my whole life because I was a gymnast, they're so easy. And I got halfway up and I couldn't do it, and I was like, what?
Yes.
Shocked, because right before that I did a pull up, which I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to do a pull up, but I did a pull up. So I thought, oh, I could do a leg lift. No problem. Oh
Mhm.
no, could not. Which, of course, when I say that, is such a high level activity. Like, it's toe to bar for those who might not know what I'm
Right.
talking about for a leg lift. That's a high level activity
Yeah,
to
some of
think
us are
that
still working on that.
I mean, to think that I'm going to do that 3 months postpartum, yeah, right. But
Mhm.
what I appreciated when I watched back the video is that I used my breath, I controlled my core, and I
Yep.
didn't have any symptoms that you
Yes.
could see from, or I didn't feel anything either from coning or doming or
Yeah.
anything like that. So it was amazing to me to be able to watch that video, but also amazing to me that I was like, wow, that's so not even close.
Yes. No, Brianna Battles talks about the athlete mindset and athlete brain, which I think so many of us that are PTs connect with. It's like, in my head, this is what I
Yeah.
should be doing, and then video is a great thing. Like I always like think I'm doing something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm super fast, or I'm flying really high, jumping
Yeah.
onto this box, and then you look at it, and you're like, oh god, that is not
Yeah.
what was going on in my head. They did not match. Not at all. Not at all.
I
Um,
know.
how are you doing, like, getting both of you getting in workouts, each day? Because, again, I think that's the other thing too. A lot of moms run into the fallacy that, and I remember being like this, if I couldn't have the perfect 40 minutes, then I
Mhm.
wasn't gonna do it, and and I know that the perfect 40 minutes doesn't exist,
Mhm.
so what
Yeah.
has worked for you guys?
Still figuring that out.
Oh, yeah.
um,
No, you will be for a long time.
will be for the next 20 years, I'm sure. But I think you hit on it. Like, you expect to have the perfect 40 minutes,
Yeah.
or while Jen was still pregnant or pre-pregnancy, it's just like, you can take an hour and a half, 2 hours. I
Right.
can I can run and play pickleball. I was playing pickleball like 4, 5, 6 days a week because I just got into the craze
Right?
prior to, and then come home and lift some weights, and there you go. You got your great workout in. But I think it's just like, a lot of it is reforming in your head what activity and working out means.
Yep.
And I think something that I've really grabbed onto is like having those little movement snacks. How do
Yes.
I
Yep.
introduce a lot more movement snacks throughout my day, where he goes down for a nap? He's in a stage where his nap could be anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes right now. So it's just like, how can I just get down and do 25 push-ups and 25 squats and then be ready in
Yep.
case he gets back up, because Jen's working right now. It's my time to have
Yep.
have the babe. We've had minimal childcare help in this first stage of pregnancy. Jen's mom's helping us out a couple days a week now,
Yep.
which has been incredible. But yeah, just reforming what that means
Yeah.
and making these agreements with your partner, where it's just like, okay, why don't you work out? I got him for an hour, hour and a half,
Yes.
and then we'll pass off and I get to go do something. But my athlete mindset came in where I was like, he was 4 or 5 days old. We're at home and I'm like, what
Oh
can
my
I do?
gosh, yeah.
What can I do to just keep myself active? Like,
Mhm.
I stayed active through Jen's whole pregnancy. I was feeling great in my body. I'm like, I got it. I'm going to do 100 burpees and 25 pull-ups every day. And that's something I don't recommend for the average person. Probably shouldn't myself have done that, but I'm 3 days into this and I just felt wrecked. We also got COVID in tandem with that. We got
No.
COVID like 10 days into
Oh my God.
Dante being born. So I'm
Ugh.
dealing with all the soreness from doing that, plus my full body soreness, aches, and fatigue
Oh
from
my
COVID.
goodness.
Plus no sleep.
No sleep.
Oh, you
But I
hit the
stuck with it. That was an easy thing for me to be like, okay, I can get 10 burpees in and go do 5 pull-ups right now while he's
I would
feeding
not
Jen.
choose burpees as my first exercise back. Like that's just that's not
Yeah,
joyful to me.
I know. I know. I
It
mean,
was crazy
did
to
it spark joy? I don't know, but was it something that I knew I could do in 10,
Brainless.
15 minutes,
Okay.
brainless activity, get
Okay.
it done, and then I felt really good about
Okay.
it. And
I may not
so
want to go any further into your brain, Dom, but
no. But insert something different in that. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna do 10 step ups or
yeah,
15 step ups.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think kind of having that little. I like the movement snack. I like the the things that are easy ideas for you, maybe not easy to execute, but easy ideas to do. I feel like that thread will serve you
Mhm.
until Dante's
Yeah.
older. And just
Yeah.
because, again, like now I'm at the stage where, like, for example, my daughter's got choir tonight and she's there an hour. It's not enough time for me to go there, come back, and then go get her again. And so I have things that, like, it's the planning ahead. If you know,
Mhm.
I've got this time, this space, this is what I can do in that. It's easy. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to look anything
Yeah.
up. But you have to plan it ahead because it's really easy to slide other stuff in there, as you guys, and
Yeah.
especially if you're workaholics, it's really easy to
I
slide work
know.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
you
if
gotta kind of
I was just gonna say having a baby in itself can offer so many cool opportunities to get in movement and
Yep,
mobility in ways you previously didn't. I mean, you're spending
yep,
so much time on the ground.
yeah.
A
yeah,
lot of people might start to realize how tight you are on your hips, how tight you are on your back. Get
Yeah.
yourself on
yeah,
your stomach, press up with them. Do
yep,
things that you haven't done coming up to having a baby that are going to help so much with that mobility in your body. You might not be getting the strength workout or the run in
yeah,
that you usually did, but it's going to help you feel something different
yep,
to sit in a 90-90 or a kind of a shin box position and play with your kid there and
yep.
feel how it helps open up your hip rotation. So many cool opportunities.
Well, and
So
for me too, like talk about the brain, like I needed to have something that I could follow. Like
yes,
luckily we were launching a challenge that included strength and mobility
there you go.
right when I was getting back into movement. So it was perfect timing for everything. And I did it, like
Yep,
I'm literally doing what I'm telling other people to
yes,
do because it's so easy to just be able to be like, oh, this is what's on the day. This is
yep,
what I'm doing. And we try to be super mindful of when we shot these workouts, they were like 20 to 25 minutes because
mhm,
we are addressing the busy mom a lot.
yep,
And so it was perfect, and it was something that I knew that I could get to. It wouldn't take too much time. I could usually finish it within a nap period, and
yep,
I didn't have to think anymore. And
yes,
then I continued to do our programs and our plans because again, it's that thought process of
yes.
not having to plan, having it ready and available and just moving.
Yeah, definitely. I have you guys read Atomic Habits, James Clear? Uh,
Actually, I listened to the audiobook, but yeah.
yeah, no, I read, so he was on the podcast last year, and he wrote that before he had kids, and I was like, "You are speaking to moms here when you wrote this, whether you knew it or not." I'm like, getting things you enjoy, they're actionable, they're easy, like, everything's set up, like, if you can get that figured out when he's this early on, you guys are gonna be fine because that really is, like, things are gonna keep changing, and so you keep
Mhm.
having those things that you can go back to, it'll keep serving you, so,
Yeah.
but that's great that your app does that. It will already set up these really short, actionable workouts. And again, I love the brainless part because you don't have any brain cells left. They're like
No.
they're being used for other things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I really call upon like Dom too. Like in moments where we've had no sleep or you would think that I wouldn't want to work out, but because I mentally get so fatigued from things, I need the
You need the
workout. And
break.
so
Yep.
I'll text him and say, can you please just, if he gets up, can you just settle him or be with him after this nap? I need to finish this workout. Like for me mentally, like this is where I need to be. And he'll step in.
And
Yeah.
so good that you know that about yourself, but also so good that you know that your partner is going to back you up on that,
Yeah.
because there's so much of the mom guilt again, where you feel like, oh my gosh, I've always got to be with them. And then, 3 kids 5 years later, you're trying to pick up the pieces when you didn't take care of yourself. And I see that a
Yeah.
lot. So
Yeah.
great examples. All right, we have some questions that that everybody gets at the end, and we'll substitute parent
Right.
for mom here, Dom, for you. So favorite activity since becoming a mom. And it doesn't have
Favorite
to do with
activity?
Dante either. You can be whatever you want.
I mean, it does have to do with him. I think our family walks are like my favorite thing. It helps to de-stress at the end of the day. It's like super fun just to have that. I usually like to wear him. So like having that closeness with him, having our family just go on a little walk, whether it's an hour or 30 minutes, like
Mhm.
that's one of my new favorite activities.
And the
Aw.
crazy neglected big sister pup that we
I
have.
know. Your dog has been such a saint, and thank you for all your dog traveling advice you've given me, by the way. So
Oh,
our dog now flies with us too. So
Oh, amazing.
amazing. Yeah, I would say similar is just like our family trips to the park. We have a park
Mhm.
just nearby, and again, we don't spend much more than 30 to 50 minutes
Yeah.
there because we
He
get
has a short
there,
awake
get all
time.
set up. We
Yeah.
try to hit it during his awake time, but just being able to be outside and starting to find those ways to set the example.
Yep.
Like we want to be outside with our family, and we
Yep.
want our kid to see that having that outside and that active time is important. And so being able to feel like we're still walking the walk and showing Dante the example of what it means to be busy, to be a parent, to be running a business, and also to take care of yourself.
Yep, exactly. And with little kids too, and once he gets moving a little bit more, like if we didn't go to the park twice a day, someone was going to die, and it was probably going to be me. So
Yeah.
like they need that outdoor time,
Yeah.
especially little boys are like they need to get out there and get all that energy out. And it does make for a better day for everybody to just get a little fresh air. So I love
Definitely.
that. All right, one piece of advice, and we'll substitute for parent here. One piece of advice for new parents.
Ask for support.
Mm,
And I think that's really important. And and know your boundaries. I will say that
yes.
too, because if you can't handle people coming over, or you feel like you need to host them, or you need to take care of them, or they don't know what it's like to be a new parent who aren't going to help around the place or bring food or do something,
Yes.
supportive, don't have them around right now, and just that have that be okay. I think knowing your boundaries, asking for support, that's everything in the early stages.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, my piece of advice I think could be a great piece of advice for everyone, but like start breaking down your expectations and try to go into things without hard and fast expectations about how it's going to look, how the day's going to go.
Yep.
You can plan out a day to the T, and none of it will go
Oh,
how you
no.
want
Oh,
it to.
no.
So being able to be flexible, be comfortable being uncomfortable, be okay with change in the schedule. That's I like to have my day pretty planned out, and that's been a little bit of a challenge for me. But just telling myself like, hey, I need to wake up every day ready for the unexpected
Yes.
and ready for things to change.
No, that again, like, getting that dialed in early does make life a little bit easier later on. All right, who is somebody in, since you guys have dug into this a lot recently, who is somebody in pregnancy postpartum space that we should know about, that we may not know about?
Ooh.
What are resources that really served you?
I mean, you're going to be better at this one than me, and you're probably going to hate my answer.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I wonder what you're gonna like a specific person that people should know about.
Yeah. Where did you get some information that you really was like, yeah, that was good stuff. I was really happy that I
Yeah.
listened to that or connected with
Yeah.
that person.
Mama Stay Fit
Mhm.
was a great resource especially during pregnancy.
Mhm.
And I actually took their childbirth class and
Yep.
I really appreciated it. Um, Spinning Babies was
Mhm.
great to have, and we did a webinar from or one of their classes or something. And then afterwards, I mean, I've just learned so much through the years, I would say, but specifically, I mean, there's so many people that I feel like I love. There's the vagina rehab doc. I
Mhm.
love her. She has
She's
great
hysterical.
information.
Yep.
She's hilarious. We even had her in our house and she's so great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I can't even like think of everyone. Obviously, the
She's got mom
brain
brain,
fog.
Dom.
I
Hop in,
do.
Dom.
I do.
So here's my answer, and this is why Jen's gonna hate it because
Uh-oh.
Jen forever has had this type of imposter syndrome that because she's not a pelvic health specialist or hasn't specifically gotten the credentials, but when it comes to Jen's content, it's so easy to understand. It gets you down to the root of feeling something different when it comes to your pelvic floor, when it comes to core connection and contraction. She has had so many challenges or courses in the past that people have gone through and say, I stopped leaking. I don't
Yeah.
leak when I sneeze anymore. And it's not a course that was meant at all for, leaking or pelvic health. It's just when you
Yep.
start to understand good core contraction and how to incorporate that into your everyday functional life, it's everything. And
Yeah.
so I would say Jen and her content and the ease of being able to understand um, getting back connected with that core and how to translate that into
Yeah.
strength, whether that's a strength workout or movement or jumping. Um, she's great at it.
You're such a good husband, by the way, and a good partner. I'm like,
No. Yeah,
the
that
the
was
thing that
sweet.
touches me about that is like, and again, about both of you, I've known Dom a little bit longer, but like this is just inherently who you are. And I just love that people get to see that about you. But no, to your point too, this is actually a conversation I have with my PT students is so many of them will not go forward and be official, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
pelvic floor PTs. But I'm like, if you know those connections, if you can say the words, if you can ask the questions, things that you are going to do are going to impact somebody, will eventually bring you over to the dark side. But it's one of those things where I'm like, you don't have to just like, this doesn't make me special. Just because I can do internal doesn't make me special. The fact that you're encompassing all these things in a holistic way, that's to me what makes somebody a pelvic floor PT. Like that, I get upset about the whole internal external thing, but I agree with you, Dom. I think, Jen, and again, because you put out just a lot of good content, period, to be able to feel comfortable enough to highlight these pieces, I think has been a really good gift for people who follow you. And I hope they appreciate that and they're able to use it. So, all
Yeah.
right, last one here. Dom, this is just for Jen. What does
Great.
it mean to you to be an active mom in postpartum?
Oh boy. Um, I think primarily it's listening to your body and giving yourself grace. Like that was my message prior to pregnancy,
Yeah.
postpartum, and that is even more so my, answer now. Movement to me looks really different. I only get like 2 to 3 strength workouts in a week at this point. I've dabbled in starting to get a hit workout in every now and then, but
Hmm.
that's super inconsistent. Um, and it's more about like, okay, can I get outside and go for a walk? Can we
Yeah.
go to the park? Can we, active is just it's going to change on a
Yep.
day-to-day basis, having no expectations like Dom kind of said, and just allowing this time and this process. And I also like I'm just honoring my body for what it's able to do right now. I mean, and what it has done.
Yeah.
I'm solely breastfeeding, so to know that I want to have that as the forefront. I'm not as worried and concerned about how I look or what's going to happen with my body or how much strength I can get back. It's more so like, can I be there for my baby and produce what he needs?
Yep.
And make sure that that is what's taken care of most right now. And so I think, the active mom, that's going to look different for some people. Some people won't want to breastfeed, and they're going to be able to go back to more heavy workouts or doing more stuff, but honoring your body, honoring your journey, and having grace for it all, I think is so important.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's been so lovely watching you guys kind of go through this. And again, I'm like, I was there in the beginning. I love it. I love it. The kids are growing up so
Yeah.
fast. If you guys want to learn more about Jen and Dom, you can find them on Instagram at DocJenFit and Dr. Dom DPT. Jen and Dom Fraboni, thank you so much and congratulations. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.